I am so excited about today's episode, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Today's guest has, 3 platinum albums, 10 gold albums, 5 gold singles. He's acted in over 60 films, including, Hudson Hawk, Staying Alive, Fred Claus, Tombstone. He's written and recorded compositions for 9 films, including Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rambo 2, Paradise Alley, and Over the Top, as well as The Expendables 2. By now, you probably already know. Well, you probably know by the title exactly who I'm talking about. But he also received Grammy and Golden Globe nominations for the original song he wrote for the Saturday Night Fever sequel, Staying Alive. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Stallone is my guest on today's episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast. Don't go anywhere. You're going to love it.
You're listening to the Steve Freeman Podcast, the real, raw truth about the pursuit of success in music, business, and life. Here's your host, hit songwriter, multi-platinum selling producer, and serial entrepreneur, Steve Freeman.
Welcome back to the Steve Freeman Podcast. This is my pleasure to bring in today Frank Stallone. I'm so glad he's here. We're going to talk music business. We're going to talk politics. We're going to talk a little bit about everything. But for right now, Frank, welcome into the show. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you, Steve, for contacting me to have me on your wonderful show.
Well, I know the funny thing is in researching for this, I was looking, it's, artist, songwriter, musician, actor, entrepreneur. Which one of these things does Frank Stallone consider himself to be?
I would say the musician for sure. I mean, that was the first thing I did from a child, and I'm still doing it. Now, I hate to say it, I'll be 70 years old on Thursday. So I've been doing it professionally for 55 years, and with all the ups and downs, the stuff like that, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Let me ask you, and I want to get into a lot of it with you, but where do you see, because the music business as it stands today, the music that's being made today, the music that's being force-fed on the public today, what do you think where we are in the business right now versus the music that you started making, that you still continue to make? What's the downside of it today for you when you look around on the musical landscape?
Well, the musicality is the downside. I mean, once in a while you get a breath of fresh air like the Kings of Leon that are like a real band. I mean, there's no sampling. I mean, they're like, Tom Petty. They're a real band. Or Post Malone. I mean, he's eccentric, but he's actually pretty good. Oh, I don't consider him at all. I
flew the entire family up to go see Post Malone at Madison Square Garden last September. And then we went again when he came here in Nashville. I could not agree with you more. I think he's a genius.
I asked a friend of his that's very good. I go, why does he live in Utah? He goes, because he loves shooting 50 caliber rifles. He's a gun nut. Even though he drives around these gaudy Rolls Royces, he goes, he just hangs around. He loves to shoot. And he's like a real, Second Amendment type guy. He's a real cool guy. So, but the business has changed. The expectation is different. I mean, when I came out, not as someone sound like an old arrow in my day, but in my day and when my time came, I was up against Michael Jackson, the Police, Lionel Richie. I mean, there was a moment, I don't even know if I have it somewhere. There was a moment on one of the charts when I was above all those guys, not for long. But for a minute, in the hot.
That's all that matters is that minute.
I was there, and but again, all these guys, singer, songwriters, not so much sampling. I mean, so what happened to me is after like almost 20 years in the trenches, really nothing happening. When Staying Alive came out for me, that was my entree into the big time. Before I was on RCA. Failed record, this, that, but that was like going from, it was almost a Rocky story, going from broke and within a year being nominated for Grammy and a Golden Globe and platinum records and all that stuff like that. So that was my Rocky story. But the thing was, so we worked on my solo album, my first solo album. And it didn't go over as well as we thought it would. I mean, the record company was jazzed on it. They actually intercut 5 songs on the B-side of the 45 because they thought there were so many hits on the record. So that didn't go well. So I lost my record deal. Unfortunately, my people didn't get me a 3-record deal like everyone else got. And so I lost my deal. And then overnight, the business changed. It changed to, well, it was the early stages of, I guess, what you would call rap, hip hop. And no, I was writing with Lamont Dozier, Harry Nilsson. I was writing with some really good writers. I didn't know how to, the sampling and that's just not my bag. I don't write like that, and nor do I want to. And the people like that music, God bless them, but it's not for me. So I decided to make a big band album because everyone always said, man, you should do a big band album. You can really do that stuff really well. So I financed my own record. I started my own record label and I paid, and it was not cheap. I did this album with Sammy Nesco called In Love in Vain. Sammy had been nominated for many, many Grammys. He was Count Basie's conductor and arranger. I mean, he'd been around forever, and he's still around. He's like 95 years old. He's really well respected. He told me that he thought it was the best album he ever made because I let him do whatever orchestrations he wanted to do. And Tony Bennett actually wrote the liner notes to that album. So I'm saying, okay, this album comes out. Dean Martin's alive. Frank Sinatra's alive. Tony Bennett. So the guys are alive. I mean, it's not like, okay, Frank came in when they're all dead. So this is, again, this is my competition. Jack Jones, you name them, they're there. So the album comes out, and I must admit to myself, I think the album is stupendous. It's called In Love in Vain. It's on cdbaby.com, on my label. And I figured, well, I can't compete with the kids, the young guys doing the hip hop and sampling and, it's not like young MC. That's just not what I do. Right. But I can compete in the adult contemporary traditional big band stuff because there was no one my age. This is before Harry Connick. This is before Michael Bublé. The only one that did an album that was Linda Ronstadt, which was a great record, and Harry Nilsson, which was great. But that was it. So I figured I'm in. It's
the lane's
new.
Open.
Yeah, the lane is open. It's new material. It's new this. It's new that. Again, RCA Records goes, wow, we really like this thing. I said, oh my God, I'm so ecstatic. They call me up and goes, I swear to God, like a day before I signed the deal, nah, I don't think it's going to happen. We just had a regime change. I go, oh, Christ, here we go. So the album really never got to see the light of day. And it's a shame because it really is, I think it's a great album because the arrangements, a lot of people, I don't do Sinatra songs per se. I do standards. This is before Rod Stewart. I do standards, but they're my own arrangements.
Right.
I mean, they're, Sammy Nestigos and myself. And they're really, it's different, and Michael Bublé, guess when Sammy did stuff with Michael Bublé, Sammy says, do you know what was on David Foster's desk? I go, what? He goes, your CD, the one we did. So, because Sammy was doing stuff with Michael Bublé, and Michael's a great guy, and I like Michael a lot, and I think he's really good. He's really a talented guy. And so that set me back. I mean, that really set me back. Tremendous, because I didn't really have the team to say, okay, we'll get this on Concord Records, we'll get this here, we'll get this there, and I lost the momentum. So I became the working guy, out there working and doing all that crazy stuff, and that's how it goes. So, and I've recorded like 12 albums, different stuff. Don't mind my books. I got thousands and thousands of books. I don't even know what I'm going to do anymore. I mean, it's like,
well, evidently you're going to read.
I've read every one of these books behind me, and it goes up to the ceiling, to tell you the truth.
Oh, wow.
And I've read all those books, and there's another bookshelf over there. So it's, but something I like, but now I'm getting into Kindle because I can't travel with 4 or 5 hardbacks anymore. That's more than my amp,
Right. Oh, hey, so, absolutely.
And the business has changed in that sense too. I remember before we used to have amble cases, amps on the road. So that's all gone. Everything is backline now. And Now you're fighting with people to carry your $80,000 Les Paul on the plane, and then someone pushes their luggage into it. You want to kill them. I said, excuse me, this guitar is worth more than like your life. Okay. So that whole thing has changed a lot, and the business has changed. It's, all these shows, American Idol, American this, to that, other than the few people on those shows, most of them don't have a clue, because they, like Daughtry and the guy that's in Queen, but they worked. They were like in a band. They knew how to perform. These other guys had never performed. The only one that really did, Carrie Underwood, she was kind of a novice, but she took to it and she did a great job. And so did the other gal, the first girl.
Kelly Clarkson. Yeah.
Great singer. But most of them, because they don't have a show. Every week it takes a week. They've got a voice coach. They got in-ears. They got a thing for one song. And I remember at that age, I was doing 160 minutes of music a night, 6 nights a week in bars. So you learn your craft, but there's a lot to performing live. And I get a lot of kudos for my live show because I've been doing it for so long. It's natural. I know how to gauge, when to do this. There's some audiences that want to hear talk and batter. Some don't. They just want to hear music. And I did that when I used to open for Don Rickles all the time. Oh, wow. And that was kind of a weird show for me. I went from like rock and roll to Don Rickles. But Don was great. And who am I to turn Don Rickles down? It was great. But the thing is, what you learn from those old timers, man, I don't care if they're half dead, they're going to do the show. And I was almost like that. I very rarely get sick, but this one time I was so sick that my conductor, I had to lay in the back of a station wagon and go from my house out to the Indian casino where I was playing with Don Rickles. And I'm talking like sick, and I'm never sick. And usually I have people backstage, we're drinking, having fun. I was like this. I was like Weekend at Burn. I was like Joe Biden, basically. Weekend at Burn. So, that's what I was like. And all of a sudden they go, Frank, 5 minutes. I was on stage. It's really weird. I did one of the best shows I ever did. And then I went back and just out because I knew, because Don used to watch my show. They don't care. The show goes on. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I had the same manager for a minute that Frank Sinatra had, Elliot Weissman. Good guy. He was Frank's manager. And I remember I was in New York. I was going to be playing at a place called Michael's Pub. And Frank was celebrating his 75th birthday at the Meadowlands. So there was like 75 to 80,000 tickets sold out. Frank has like 103 temperature. He's gone. Elliot said, what are we going to do? And Frank goes, I'm going on. The doctor goes, you could die. He goes, well, good. I'll die on stage, but I'm going on. There's no way I am not going to do that show. And he came on, and it was iffy the first few songs. And man, that memory kicked in, and he just kicked royal ass. That's the difference between a pro and a crybaby.
Well, it is, and I agree 100%. And it's what when I have new songwriters or new artists talk to me and try to get advice, I've always started from a place that I have no respect for anyone who never played to an empty room. And because they have no, even when it comes to Carrie Underwood, she went from serving drinks at Sonic to playing sold out shows. There was no that.
So she didn't pay her dues.
Yeah, no,
she didn't pay any dues.
No, there were no dues. And a lot of times now, they almost wear that as a badge of honor. Like, we didn't have to do this and we didn't have to do that. And it's like, look, the value. But I will also say this, and I'd like to get your point of view on this. See, my disdain for the music business and even music as it is today is because there's no storytelling anymore. The song almost doesn't matter, and the song matters to me. And, we've taken that element out of it. We don't tell stories. I had a publisher.
Writers like Don Williams.
Oh,
yeah, you don't have like that.
No, I had my publisher literally, this is verbatim, called me into a meeting about 2.5 years ago and set me down and said this, quote, Steve, we need you to stop writing great songs and start writing hit songs that we can get cut.
How about that? They're so hard for Lee and Bootleg riots.
Oh,
I mean, these guys are really well. I mean, look at all those Everly Brothers hits. These people are well crafted songwriters. I mean, Johnny Cash, not the greatest singer, but he was Johnny Cash, and his thing got across. Willie Nelson, people forget he wrote Crazy and he wrote all these big hits, but these were well crafted smiths. That's why I was saying to you before, they don't have that anymore.
No, like that's not what they're looking for.
I mean, that's insane. Listen, Steve, don't write me a great song. Write me a hit song, which means, okay, crappy songs are becoming hit songs.
Well, it does. And for me, I've never distinguished those two things. To me, a hit song would come, and well, I always tell people this too, and a lot of people don't understand this, and it's a general public thing. A hit song only becomes a hit song when a record label puts $1 million behind it. That's when a song becomes a hit. So a hit has never, ever, ever, ever been written in a room anywhere. A great song has been written in a room somewhere, and then a record label made it a hit.
You know, I've written so many songs, and, you know, you see sometimes on my Instagram, I do my little concerts of my songs I've written. I've written a lot of songs. There's no one to write to anymore. I mean, it's, you know, I think people forget it's not easy to write a song. It's solitary. That's why I didn't suffer too much during the pandemic, because being a songwriter, it is solitary. You know, you're not sitting there, you know, listening to the radio where you're trying to scramble your brain to make a lyric make sense or something like that. So, so sometimes it's hard to get inspired to write a song, because where's it going?
No, that's a great point. I had somebody call me the other day and they're like, "Hey, let's get on the books, man. Let's write." And I'm like, "Why? Why?
Yeah.
You know, what's the purpose? Unless it's, you know." And one of the things I want to ask you about too is about, I don't know, maybe, my God, I've said 5 years ago now, it's 10 years ago now, but I really got into writing, you know, songs and music for TV and film, and I got into loving that because the vehicle was predetermined. I knew what the vehicle for the song was. You know, and I wanted to ask you the same thing. How do you approach that, or do you approach it differently when you're saying, okay, I want to sit down, I want to write a Frank Stallone song, I want to write a song for me, or do you prefer doing stuff for TV and film? Does that give you another outlet? Does that allow you to take on a different persona? Or are the songs that you've done and continue to do for TV and film, are those just Frank Stallone songs that get synced and get put in these movies?
Yeah, well, Staying Alive, I wrote specifically for that movie, those songs. For Rambo 2, when I wrote Peace in Our Life, I wrote that specifically for that thing. Nowadays, they just grab a song from a hip hop artist and just throw it into the movie. So they're not like written specifically for the picture. You know, it's funny. God, my nose is itching. I don't know what's going on. It must be the pollution. Anyway, but like some acts I saw, I was playing in Oklahoma at the Buffalo Run Casino. And so we went down the road about 20 miles to go see Big and Rich. And I got to tell you, man, those guys put on and they're nice guys. And they have that bar behind the stage. And of course, I was sitting there drinking and having a blast. And those guys really put on it's not even so much a country show.
It's a circus.
It's kind of, but it's great. They got that big black guy that comes out. They have this guy here. And it's like one big happy family, but I tell people, you know, there's a few shows, that's one you should miss because it's really entertaining. And John's a smart guy. Yeah. He's no dumbbell. He's a pretty sharp character.
No, he really is.
But, you know, there's some acts I've seen, it's like watching paint dry because they don't have an act. Like when you were saying writing songs. Now, if I'm James Taylor, I can write because I know it's going to be released, or Paul McCartney, even though I've had hit records. But nowadays it's like, okay, who's Frank Stallone writing for? Unless I'm just writing for myself. But it'd be nice to be that type of artist where you could write and it's going to be out. You know, it's going to come out. So, I mean, I did the Nashville thing, and I've recorded in Nashville, and the musicians are just perfect. And the vibe is perfect once you get the musicians together. Yeah. I don't know so much about the business part now anymore. I know it's changed quite a bit, but I used to hang out at the Sunset Grill, man. Just that was the day, sitting there getting hammered with other songwriters and acts and come in, and it's very homogenized now. It's kind of sad that it's gotten really like so homogenized. And before those guys, man, the Chris Christophersons, the Mickey Newberrys. They're great writers, man. And, covered their stuff. Everyone, Johnny Cash, you name it, Roger Miller. These guys were really good songwriters. I don't know if they, in today's Nashville, would have made it. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Again, that goes back to we're not looking for great songs. So
looking for hits.
Right.
But I thought a hit song was supposed to be a great song.
Man, I'm right there with you. I would love more than anything to get back to the time when that is true, and it's like, it floors me sometimes. I'll be talking to somebody, oh man, that is such a great song. And I'm like, no, that is not a great song. Just because you hear it on the radio every 53 minutes does not mean it's a great song.
It's like the My Pillow commercial. I'm ready to strangle this guy. Hi, I'm Mike Lindell. I said, and the guy goes, well, I like My Pillow because it's a good pillow. It looks like you just ate 4 pillows, okay, the guy. And so my friend Carrot Top is a good friend of mine. He goes off of that commercial because it's just so much. And they're long and they're boring. I'm going to interrupt this commercial for My Pillow made in Minnesota. And I say, oh, come on, man. At least change your shirt.
Right.
Like change the outfit. Like have a girl on a stripper pole landing on a My Pillow. Something interesting other than, the commercial as it is. It's just like, so it's almost like the music business is this redundant pounding on your head of mediocrity. Like, I think Billy Joel is a superb artist and songwriter. Superb. I think
Agreed.
He's as good Elton John, anybody. Okay. And he was getting all these accolades, from people. He goes, it's not I'm really that good. It's just that the bar has been lowered so much. And I disagree because I think he's as good as any songwriter out there. But in his humble opinion, he goes, well, it's just that the bar is so lowered. There's so much bad music. That's why I come off like George Gershwin, So it's like almost Paul McCartney's new songs. There comes a time to wrap it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's Paul McCartney. He's not like cute anymore. He's kind of like, he's great. He's like a Cabbage Patch doll now. He's like one of these really cute guys that just got old. Like,
right.
Benjamin Button type thing, So, and there's very few artists. See, but Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin could go on like that because they always looked older than they were. And they were big drinkers and smokers and they could do that thing, But like when you're almost like so cute and good looking and you're trying to still be cute and good looking, it doesn't like work. But the Stones, it works for because they were never cute.
Well,
they were just the greatest band ever.
Well, and a lot of those artists, they also don't realize that about 12 years ago, the industry sold to 12-year-olds. And these 12-year-olds have no sense of heritage, legacy. They don't even know who the Beatles are.
Is that pretty scary? You're dating way below your thing when you go, man, you know what? I love Day in the Life by the Beatles. Like, who's that? I go, whoa, okay. Now okay. I got to start moving up to the mid 50s now. Okay.
Right.
The 30s happening anymore. Okay. The Kinks, man, you really got me. Hey, was that about hair? I go, okay. All right. Yeah. It's just like, it's like, the old saying, oh man, I got a kink in my hair. That's what they think it is. It has something to do with their hair salon. But then, you're in really deep water. Like people go, man, isn't Rod Stewart's standard album great? I go, to who? I'm listening to Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole, Johnny Hartman, I listen to the greatest. Right. Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. So when these guys come, it's like when Michael Bolton, who I think is a great pop singer, but when he did the opera album, my brother go, it's pretty good, isn't it? I go, well, obviously you don't know anything about opera because in the opera world, no, it would not. It would not be. It would be like it just wouldn't float. It's like it's like someone to riff on Tchaikovsky or Rachmaninoff. You can't do it. So, but I gave Michael Bolton an A for effort. It wasn't bad, but it's not like he would have gotten a job at the Met.
Right. Well, and it's all, and it's also all how it's framed and trying to be sold. If they would have tried to sell that album as Michael Bolton being Michael Bolton doing these songs, different story. Yeah. But they tried to sell it as an opera record, and it's like he's not an opera singer, so it's not an opera record. It's just a pop cover record.
Yeah, he's no Mario Alonso. Okay, so it's like, but he's a good singer. Mike had a great career, and all of a sudden, isn't it so weird? Here's a guy. Michael Bolton was like the My Pillow guy. He was constantly on the radio. Am I right? Oh, here's another.
Yeah.
Constantly on the radio, and he does Dancing with the Stars, and his career is destroyed because he was uncoordinated and he had like a bad attitude about it, and he never sold records again. Is that weird?
No, well, it is really weird. As a matter of fact, my wife and I were having a conversation about this not long ago, and she's like, we were talking about,
why would you want Dancing with the Stars? They offered it to me. I go, are you crazy?
The only place I see Michael Bolton anymore is at the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel. That's it. And he's there all the fucking time.
Mike made a lot of money and he had some really good records. But the thing is, he stopped doing his own songs he wrote.
Yes. He quit being Michael Bolton.
Yeah. His early stuff, the one that Laura Branigan, Live Without You, great record. He could write songs, but all of a sudden he stopped. It's like when I went to Branson, Missouri to play, it took me 2.5 weeks to say, you know what, I can't do this because you will turn into the most mediocre. You could go in there as a real artist, and within a year, you're like as deep as Poppin' Fresh to Doughboy. There's nothing, because I'm sitting there and said, who am I playing to? People go, well, you're playing too loud. I go, why? I go, we got a lot of old people. I said, okay. And then it was like, you don't have any drink? Oh, no. We have bench. I said, so what am I doing? So I invented a thing called the Exploding Hearing Aid Tour. So I turned my amp up to 20. Okay. And guess what? All these people that they thought were fragile and old and this, they had a blast, and I had some great time. Yeah, Andy Williams, I went to see his show. I was invited everywhere. Mickey Gilley, but Mickey Gilley's this good old boy. He's having fun with his friends there. Andy Williams was there. Ray Stevens was there. They were all there, but they were all leaving when I was coming. They go, yeah, I've been here.
Don't forget Shoji Tabuchi. Now, you can't talk about Branson, talk about Shoji, man.
But here's a guy that no one outside of Branson would know who he is, but he sells out. It's unbelievable. Like the Russian guy. What was his name? Yakov Smirnoff.
Yeah,
I know Yakov
Smirnoff. Yeah.
Sold out. He said, I'm done. I can't. It's a grind. I said, this is not for me. I'm not a residency type artist. Let me do my 2 nights and I'm out. I can't see myself. I don't like Vegas anyway, but I can't see myself doing like a year. Not that they would hire me for a year, but doing that because I don't really gamble. I like to take a drink, but I don't gamble. And Vegas is not the Vegas that I used to go to. Now it's kind of like Candyland. When I was there, that was when the mob guys were there, the hot looking showgirls, the after show hangouts at clubs where people are singing and jamming. That's all gone.
Nah.
It is like, I used to park my car, I swear to God, right on Las Vegas Boulevard in front of Caesars and walk into the casino. You couldn't, now it's like traffic jams like Manhattan. I used to just pull my car as a gravel parking lot behind Caesars Palace. That's gone, man. So the whole thing is gone. But there's a lot of acts, they go, well, Aerosmith is playing Vegas. And there's something about it that just turns me off.
I can agree. I totally get what you're saying. I get that.
I can't imagine like Nirvana would be doing a residency at a hotel. Do you?
No, I don't. I don't.
I don't think so.
Well, it cheapens. it cheapens the legacy to me.
It's not rock and roll.
No, that's not the, if I were in their position, that's not the, I mean, let's face it, when you're talking about Aerosmith, some of the, I mean, that should, in all honesty, be the last stop that the train has. And I wouldn't want that to be the last thing people remembered me for. I would want them to remember the stadiums and the coliseums and the, you know, the heyday of it.
It's like, you know, like when you look back on George Jones' career, I mean, no-show Jones, like falling down drunk, but they always loved him because he was, that was him. And he was a damn great country singer in the greatest.
None better.
But he was from that era where they all did speed and drank and got in trouble, married 20 times, but they all did. I mean, look at Willie and Waylon and Johnny Cash. They were all wild men. You know, they were all drinkers and womanizers. That was just part of that thing, you know? Well,
like you were even, I mean, those artists, there's no way in the world and we'll dive a little bit into politics here, but there's no way in the world they couldn't have even existed today.
No.
Without being canceled.
Can you imagine Taylor Swift playing on a bill with Waylon, Willie, Johnny? It would be like a vanilla wafer being thrown into like a pastrami sandwich. It just wouldn't work. I mean, because even the women were kind of wild back then.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Tanya Tucker, I mean, I never got, you know, and I'm, you know, I don't know Taylor Swift. I never got it. I just never got it. I got Shania Twain, not as a country singer. It's just that she was hot and she had a great show. And she was seductive and she had that thing. Reba, I get, because Reba's best country you're going to get. And everyone liked it. Same with Loretta Lynn. Same with Tammy Wynette. I mean, they're real country, down home, nice, personable people. I get that. I look at Taylor Swift. It's I just don't get it. I'm not that she's bad, but I just don't feel anything. Like when I used to listen to Joni Mitchell, while it was Cat Stevens. Okay. I got it. Those songs are the ones that go, whoop, and you get it.
Well, you don't get it because you're not a 10, 11, 12-year-old girl.
Well, that's true. My next. Well, I could be. I mean, I could be turned into anything.
I mean, whatever you want to identify, Frank, is fine with me. If you want to identify as a 10-year-old girl, so be it. Well, which is, okay. I do want to ask you about this because one of the things that I really do love about you beyond music is that you believe what you believe and you are unapologetically steadfast in that across social media and everywhere. You've been very upfront and public about your support for President Trump.
I am.
You're an avid and huge gun owner, as am I. And how much pushback have you felt for taking such a political or a public political stance the way that you have?
Well, I don't think it's, from my point of view, I think I'm just being an average American that respects his president, that loves his country, that respects the flag, respects the people that serve our country. I don't think that's that radical. So, but when I see things like that, so when people come at me, I said, so I'm being chastised for being patriotic. So in other words, you think more about me if I burn a flag or if I destroyed someone's property or I sat there and called the president, blah, blah, blah. Would that make me a better person? I mean, because I stand for law and order and everything I think is decent. Okay. I mean, Obama was not my choice, but I will tell you this. Someone asked me that yesterday. Goes, well, President Obama asked you to play at the White House. Would you do it? I go, you damn right I would. Of course I would. He's the president of the United States. He's my commander in chief. He was duly elected by the people. Whether I agree with anything he did is besides the point. But you respect the office. I mean, when I see like Stephen Colbert and these shows like Kimmel, it's really disturbing because then you see the difference between like when Johnny Carson, they would always take jabs at politicians, but it wasn't so brutal and personal and degrading and horrible, well, because Trump tweets too much. Well, do you think his word would get out if you relied on the press? I don't think so. I worked for Donald Trump. I used to play his casinos, and they say he never pays anybody. My check's always cashed. And he was always nice. He was nice to my mother. Very, very close with, people that I know very well. And he's a very, he's just got a lot of charisma. And I don't think Uncle Joe really wants to go up against him in a debate. It's one thing to sit there, and then it's like, when Mike Tyson would fight or someone, people, yeah, man, I'm going to do this to Mike. I'm going to do that. And then all of a sudden, when you get into the ring and you look across and there's Mike Tyson, all of a sudden, like your sphincter disappears. I mean, it's just like you're terrified. And that's what happens when people go up against Trump. He's a big guy. He's 6'3". He's a big, imposing guy that you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. So they fold like an accordion, like when they go up against him. And I think it'll be great. I mean, I think people are saying, I said, Biden's stuck in his basement. You cannot win the presidency of the United States from your basement in Delaware. You're going to have to get up. You have to man up and prove to the people that you are physically and mentally strong enough to go up against this guy. If you want to be president, you have to debate him on these topics. And you have to also debate him on your past in politics. What did you do? What didn't you do? And stuff like that. So and that's what makes horse races. But I think probably I haven't worked in a while. I was okay with my money. I saved my money. I mean, it's not like anyone's knocking my door down. I mean, I've done 76 movies. I've been in some good ones, Tombstone, Barfly. And those are people that are going to hire me. Some of these young new filmmakers that want to be like Sam Peckinpah. They go, hey, man, dug you in Barfly. Hey, loved you in Tombstone, or I liked you in Fred Claus or something. It's going to have to be one of those guys. But as far as the status quo of Hollywood, I don't think, I'm not even worried about it. That's why when I said if I left Hollywood, it really wouldn't. It's not like they would have like a mourning parade for me leaving. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, it's not like they'd be going, oh, man, let's let Frank Stallone is leaving Hollywood. They would probably have like a rocket like in Dr. Strangelove to fly me out of Hollywood. But the thing is, I surround myself by people that I like. And the funny thing is, I'm a live and let live kind of guy. I have friends of mine that are Democratic. I have friends of mine that are libertarians. I have friends of mine. I don't have friends of mine that are communists or Marxists because I don't go for that stuff. And as long as you can have a debate, but when you kind of get in my face and trying to make me wrong and yourself right, that's that self-righteous stuff, which I really don't appreciate. And what's going on now is the undercurrents of Marxism and fascism. So in other words, if you don't agree with what we say or what we do, we are going to destroy your career, your livelihood, and it's happening all the time. To me, that is so horrible to sit there and destroy someone's livelihood. That's like the McCarthy era because of something that you don't agree with. Why can't you say, okay, we agree to disagree, and when the election comes up, may the best man win?
Right.
But I mean, I'm real skeptical of this mail-in ballot stuff. I mean, my friend's dog got a ballot. Dog's been dead 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's happening. That's not a joke. People are going, my uncle's been dead for 30 years and he was getting an absentee ballot. So this thing is really a tendency to be really fraudulent. And that's why when they asked President Trump, how would you be if the results came out wrong? He goes, well, I'd have to see. Because he knows they're trying to pull something. I mean, he's not stupid. He didn't get where he's stupid.
I lost a lot of faith in that whole system just last week. A couple of friends of my wife got positive COVID-19 test results in the mail, and they never took the test. They went to the testing facility, and they pulled up. It was in 2 stages. One, you pull up, and they have you do all the paperwork. You fill all the paperwork out, and then you pull forward and wait on your turn. Well, they didn't want to wait the hour and a half to get the test after they'd waited so long. Turn around, went home. 2 days later, they get test results in the mail that showed they had tested positive, and they never took the test. So
That's insane.
When things like that are, and it's one thing when you see this stuff on social media, it's like, who knows what's real and what's not real. But when you know somebody and they're like, no, let me take a picture. Let me show you the results. And it's like, when you see stuff like that, then I don't care what side, if you're a Republican or Democrat, you cannot look at that and go, yep, mail-in voting is 100% safe and secure.
Oh no, I think that is a disaster. This is what I think is happening. I think there's a few people, which I will leave nameless, and until proven guilty or otherwise, that are kind of quaking in their boots over this girl that got with the Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
that has all the information. I have friends of mine. They're FBI. I have friends of mine. They said, Frank, they had her statements before they ever picked her up. You don't think they knew where she was the whole time? It's
right.
Like the CIA. You think she's going to fool them? I guarantee you, before they even took her in, they were documenting everything she says. They have everything because she's looking at life in prison. You're talking about underage children and stuff like that. And a girl like that, that's from a rich family in London, that's used to good life, is not going to sit in prison for the rest of their life for whoever. So I think there's a lot of people, if you see the documentary Dirty Money, the Jeffrey Epstein on Netflix, it's pretty scary. I mean, the people that have gone to that island and said that they didn't, but the flight log says different. Like Bill Clinton said, I never was there. The flight log says you were on this plane 26 times.
Yeah, 26 times.
26 times. And then Bill Gates. Why would Bill Gates go to that island? Why would Prince Andrew? Why? The thing is now, when you see any other time, you could say, okay, well, I have a friend of mine has an island, man. We just hang out there, just kick it. But this guy was a deviant. This is not like, like your friend that did well in his life and he wants to have fight down for Christmas and stuff. This is a guy that got 3 14-year-olds for his birthday from this woman. I mean, that's insane. Anybody has children. So I think people are really nervous about that. And I think they're really nervous about the Durham report. If you look at Durham, he looks like General Sherman, one of those type guys, like dead.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are people Clapper and Brennan and Lynch. They're crapping their pants because they don't know what they have. And Bill Barr and Durham are no fools. These are killers, man. These guys don't play. And if anything is hidden, and, listen, I don't like to see the sacrificial lamb, stuff like that. But it's really funny, with the mask things, it drives me crazy. I don't wear them. I mean, in my car, I don't wear a mask. If I have to wear it to go into a store. But now they have these new masks. It's the head of a sheep. Because it's like the sheep being led to slaughter.
Nice.
So it's kind of a thing. But it's like a lamb's head, like a sheep's head. You put it on. Because, this is how, if you read in history of Marxism, Nazism, this is how it all started. They start.
It's not. The plan is laid out in those books. It's like, if you want to disarm a society, you do this, and it is. It's a playbook that it's available.
Yeah, it is, Bill. There's even weird books like the Turner Diaries that it's all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, it's like George Orwell was a shaman. He was a genius. 1984, Big Brother's watching. Big Brother is inside your intestines with a camera. You can't do anything now. Isn't it amazing when you watch these things going on? The thousands of people with their cameras.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, I remember when Animal Farm, we were at school by Orwell, and 1984 came out. It was the shocking, or Fahrenheit. He didn't write that, but Bradbury. But when those things came out, it was almost, oh my God.
Inconceivable.
Now it's unbelievable. I remember in the 70s, people go, do you realize, man, Frank, one day you'll be able to talk to your girlfriend and you can see her on the phone? I go, yeah, right. Because those days you're using a Bell telephone, rotary dial. You're saying, wait, you're going to tell me I can look at my girlfriend? And what are we doing now?
Yeah.
You're not my girlfriend, but I'm just saying.
Well, I was about to say, Frank, look, that is one way you can identify yourself that ain't going to fly. That's the only one, is I'm not your girlfriend.
Yeah, look at us now. I'm sitting in my home here, and you're in Nashville, and we're having like a show.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be inconceivable in the 70s. I grew up with phone booths that you wrote a girl's phone number down on the back of a match cover. And my people, well, how did you survive? You go, what do you mean, how did you survive? You picked up the phone, you called someone, you made a date, and you didn't flake out. And that's how it went in those days. Your car broke down, you had to go to a phone booth and call like a garage or your cousin or someone to come pick you up. It was a different world. It was a more responsible world because you had to do it. And your word meant more. I mean, I was at a club. Well, I don't really go to clubs, but I went to one because a friend of mine had. And it was unbelievable to me. I mean, these beautiful girls. I mean, but they're dressing so suggestive. It's like really scary. And there's like these guys around, like 24-year-old good-looking guys in Hollywood. And there's nothing going on. The girls are sitting there like this on their phone and texting and doing selfies, and these guys are sitting there, and there's nothing. And so I went up to her. I said, it's a club here. It's loud. It's like I said, who are you texting? She goes, my girlfriend. I go, okay, well, where is she? He goes, hey, look, she's over there. I said, you're actually texting your girlfriend that's 10 feet away? I mean, wow. It's insanity. I mean, I remember to get a date, in my day, you had to work for it a little bit. I mean, you had to go up, hey, how you doing? It's not like they could look you up on social media. You had to have a pretty good rap. Right, you know what I mean? Right. If you're at a bar playing with a band, yeah, I'm Frank, yeah, I'm here. It's not like while they're talking to you, they're looking you up on Google or looking for, what's your Instagram? Right. So in other words, you're being like snatched. It's crazy. And, I would survive. Say if the grid went down, you and I would survive. I would just go fishing or hunting or, I grew up with not this stuff. So, yeah, would it be uncomfortable? No. Yeah, for a little bit, but I know how to read a book. I know how to write. I know how to, if I need to eat fish or whatever I need to do. It would not be, we have gotten a little spoiled. I mean, I do like the internet. I like it because I'm an information junkie. I mean, so I like that part of it. But the social part of it, where people don't even talk anymore. Guys go out on dates. They've never hardly ever talked to the girl. They're just texting.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't even have, because, as you and I, as musicians, as singers, everything is about delivery, right? And dynamics. So when you're seeing going, hi, how are you? What's up, bro? Okay, so that's like a robot, like Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet, opposed to someone picking up the phone and go, hey, Steve, what's going on, man? How's everything? You've been writing? How's the weather? What's going on? Blah, blah. Yeah. You don't have that. Now it's robotic dialogue, because if you look at, go listen to Fox News, or like when what's his name? Waters used to go out on the street and talk to the young kids.
Yeah.
They have no rap.
No.
Like, my bad, man. Like, whatever. No, I don't know, because you haven't told me anything yet.
I'm waiting on you to tell me.
Yeah, when I went out there, you know what I'm saying? I go, no, I don't, because you have not made a statement. All you're doing is saying words and saying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, if you told me a complete sentence about something, and you said, do you know what I'm saying? I said, yeah. Well, you're going, yeah, I was out with some girl. You know what I'm saying? I go, not really. Do you? So that is dialogue that's going on. So the communication skills are really weak. And I hate to say it, it kind of is showing up in film and music. I mean, I consider myself pretty open as far as music. I mean, there are some groups I do like. I mean, there are some of these young things that I think are really good. But it's like the other stuff, it's just this constant boom, 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 boom. Yeah, boom, 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 boom. It's like there's no like I'm not a fan of reggae, and I know there's probably a lot of reggae Bob Marley guys out there, and that's great. It's just too simple for me. Boom, ching, 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 boom. I mean, like if you listen to my music, like Far Over,
right?
It's pretty involved, So the music is very musical, and for some people, I know people that play the Grateful Dead. I have a friend of mine. He had a store. When I tell you this, he must have had 1,000 Grateful Dead live recordings that he went to almost every show. And that's what we'd be playing all day. I said, how many times can you listen to like Truckin'? I mean, it's like 8,000 versions of Truckin'. It's not like it's not like, Yes doing Fragile or like, or stuff like that, close to the edge. It's like Truckin'. But it's like 80,000 versions of it.
Right.
And it's just constant. It's becoming the My Pillow syndrome. I hate picking on Mike Lindell because he is a real good Republican. But man, change up your beat a little bit, man. Right. You know what I mean?
Not make it so fake anyway.
Wife beater. Yeah, well, go on like with a wife beater with a gold chain. Hey, how you doing? There's like My Pillow. You know what I mean? When I want to smack someone in the head, I do My Pillow, my new one. But it's just like, and the people that he has talking, like the people that are doing the testimonials, they got to be his friends. And when I say My Pillow, those are the Giza sheets. I'm going, where do you find these people? I mean, I'm wondering, do they work in his factory? And he goes, hey, you want to be, because the production value is so bad.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, the guy sold a few pillows, so it's like, come on, dude, new outfit, and let's get some production gear here.
Oh, this guy's worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions, but he always wears the blue shirt with the crucifix hanging outside. And now he's hawking his book with the pillows about when he was a crackhead. It's like from crackhead to entrepreneur. It's like, now, with the pillows and the Giza sheets, you get my book from crackhead to entrepreneur. It's like an old medicine show, isn't it? Like a snake oil salesman.
That's a great. I was going to say used car salesman, but I think snake oil salesman.
Yeah, it's like cowboy. It's like an old horse trader. Like we used to have horses. We get these guys come up from Kentucky. And I said, man, don't let that down home thing fool you. These are old school horse traders. They'll take the gold from your teeth, man. Be careful with these guys. Yeah. You said, no, that mare over there is the best thing I've ever seen. And all of a sudden I said, well, let's bring the vet in. Vet goes, man, this mare's on her last legs. You got bowed tendons. It's like cowhocked and everything. It's like selling like a bad car,
Yeah, it's the truth.
So, but I mean, I am so happy, Steve, that I'm not coming up today in the music business. It would be, can you imagine if Bob Dylan might be probably one of the greatest poet laureates in music ever. Would you say?
Sure.
One of the greatest. Okay. How do you think he would do on American Idol?
Oh, he wouldn't make Hollywood.
He wouldn't even get on the show.
No.
He would get to the audition period. Can you imagine Neil Young?
Meanwhile, and one of the big issues with our business is that that's what they're all really looking for.
Of course.
That's the thing. It's like, we want you to fit in this box because that's easy for us to package and that's easy for us to sell. But when then you start acting like the box, then they're like, why can't you be more like Bob Dylan? And it's, what they say they want and what they sell are two completely different.
Why can't you be like the guy that has a 60-year career that's considered one of the greatest songwriters in history? And that's the thing. Can you imagine Joni Mitchell auditioning for American Idol, or Neil Young with that high squeaky voice playing his songs? I want to live. You're out.
Now, speaking of, have you watched this? I thought it was the greatest moment in the entire thing. Have you watched the David Foster documentary on Netflix?
I don't know.
If you haven't, watch it for one reason and one reason only. because there's a part in there when he's doing the We Are the World version in Canada, and he's got Neil Young in the booth, and he did it, and he hit the talk back when he goes, "Hey, Neil, let's do it one more time. You were a little flat on that one." And without missing a beat, Neil leans to the mic and goes, "That's just the way I sing." It's like,
I love it. No, Neil Young's really actually very funny. He's a real talented guy. A little wacky, but he's very talented. I know David, and I was at the Grammys at a party. I said, "Dave, how many Grammys have you won?" He goes, "Well, I've been nominated like 53 times." He's won like 40 some Grammys.
Oh yeah.
Believe it or not, he wanted to produce me once, and I was like, it was right during David's a pretty sharp guy, and he's a very talented guy, but it was the buzz was out during Staying Alive. We're filming the movie, and people were going, "Oh, Frank's getting a lot of songs in this movie." And he's around. He hears everything, And so he was there with Richard Marx, and Richard was just a kid coming out here. He goes, "No, man, I really like your music. I've been hearing it. I like to produce you." I'm there, "Yeah, well, whatever, And I never did it. But you always wonder, there's something about David Foster. Every act that leaves him goes into spiral failure. I mean, not Michael Bublé, not so much, but you think of Josh Groban, Celine Dion, all these groups when they were with
Chicago
had hit, because that's what he does.
Yeah.
He's a control freak, whatever, but hits, Michael Bublé, hits. Michael Bublé still gets played on yacht rock and stuff, but I'm talking about major hits. So he does have that thing.
Yeah, he's got the touch.
Oh, no, he knows how to do it. But I don't know what it would be like to work with him. I personally get along with him fine. But being social and working with someone, as you know, is totally different. I've had meetings with directors that I thought were the greatest guys. We get on the set. It's like an Eichmann. I mean, it's like, oh, my God, where's this guy? It's like, it's like Mussolini.
Well,
it's just like around.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. I was telling somebody not long ago, and they were like, "There's no way it's that way." And I'm like, I swear to God. Here's what I found. When I come out there and I'm in Los Angeles, I can sit down, have lunch, dinner with some very important and powerful people, and we sit there and we're friends. We're buddy, blah, blah. But when we get back in Nashville, we don't acknowledge one another. It's the weirdest thing that I've ever, and I don't know why that is. It's like they will act like, and one really, really, really big artist, anytime we see each other, we give each other a hug out in Los Angeles, and man, what's going on? Man, we need to get together, blah, 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 blah. We're in the same room in Nashville, act like he doesn't even know me. And it's like, that is.
What is that, man? I mean, I don't get that. I mean, my friends are my friends. I mean, Steve, I've had friends I've had since I'm 10 years old. And that's what people always say. Like, in my documentary, when you'll see it called Stallone, Frank, that is.
Yes, I can't wait to see it.
Man, we've been winning, we've won like 5 Best Picture Film Festival awards for it. It's something 2 guys out of Texas did a documentary on my brother, 40 Years of Rocky, okay? And which also won some film festivals. And they said, "Hey, we'd like to do a documentary on you." I said, "Me?" I mean, I've been around a long time. Yeah, but that goes, "No, but your career is like just more interesting than a lot of people because what you've had to live under." Well, I never thought but I mean, it's like, it's the 800-pound gorilla in the house, you know what I mean? So going from, you had your band, you were on RCA Records, and all of a sudden Rocky comes out and your whole 20-year career just vanishes. So overnight you become you're not Frank Stallone anymore. Now you're Rocky's brother. Right. So, and you're being scrutinized, taken advantage of in the sense like, that's just Rocky's brother, So they said, "Well, let's do this movie." I said, "You sure?" They said, "Okay." So we did it. And I said, "You know what? If this is for real, I'm going to call in every favor I know." So now we end up with 45 people in this movie.
Wow.
You got my brother all through the movie, Arnold, Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi, John Oates from Hall & Oates, Frankie Avalon, Geraldo Rivera, who I fought on the Howard Stern show. Danny Aiello, Joe Mantegna, Billy Zane. It goes on and on and on. And then the other part is like the guys I grew up with, like the first drummer in my band, the first keyboard player, like when I was 15 years old. And it's very interesting. And I said to everyone, I said, listen, we're going to make this honest. Swear to God. Say whatever you want, because I'm not going to be at the interviews. If you think I'm an asshole, say, Frank was always a jerk off, fine, whatever. We're going to keep it that way. And I said the same thing with the girls, but I said, don't be too hard on me, okay?
Right.
But so be a little kind to me, a little bit, okay? I'm an old man. But so, I mean, so this thing comes out, and these two guys on a shoestring budget, editing in their house. And they said, Frank, we'd like you to come down to the theater and see a rough cut of this. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm like petrified. I said, this is going to be, oh, God. So I have my legal pad, and I'm ready to redline this thing left and right. Okay. I said, okay, because I don't like seeing myself on film. Oh, thank you very much. I don't like seeing myself on film all the time. Okay. So I go there. I'm there with my buddy Dave, who's one of the producers of the movie. Thing starts. Now, there's no music to it yet. It's a rough cut, right? Within 5 minutes of the movie, I don't know how you explain this, but now it's not even about me. Like I'm watching someone else.
Wow. Because
everyone is talking about me. I'm just kind of cannon fodder in the middle, but it's everyone talking about me. Now I'm getting emotional. I get tears in my eyes because people I thought didn't like me thought I was like the greatest thing they ever saw. And, you know, my 98-year-old mother at that time is in it. My aunt, who's the last of the Stallones, is in it. And then, you know, my bass player, who's one of my best friends, he died like a month before we were going to film him. And I'm looking at this whole thing, and I look at Dave Palomeni, who's my partner in this. I go, I said, you know, I'm not one for blowing my horn. I said, is it me or is this like really great? He goes, Frank, this is really great. He goes, this is the how-to movie about staying in the game against all the adversity and all the things that come with success and failure. So then we said, okay. I said, wow. I said, I'm flabbergasted. I'm so honored. I don't even know what to say because it's like they captured my whole life, everything. So,
wow.
So then they put the music to it. And then I said, okay. I go, we got to bring it up to Sly for him to see it. I'm there. Oh, Christ. Now I'm uncomfortable because my brother don't like anything. I said, oh, God. I go, so I said, okay, Derek, we got to go bring it up to Sly, man. He's got to prove his stuff in the movie. And I'm there. Oh, God, if he doesn't kind of like it, it's like bad for everything because he's like a major part, right?
Right.
I mean, we're going to get like a Rocky impersonator to play him in the movie. So we go up to his house. He's got a beautiful screening room. So it's me, the director and his partner that put the movie together, my brother, and all his kids and his wife. I'm there. Oh, Christ. Here we go. So they put it on. And we're watching it as it goes along. And, you know, and it's actually pretty funny. A lot of it's very funny. So the girls are laughing. His wife is laughing. Sly, you hear him go. And so I'm there. Okay. Now I see my brother leaning over and talking to the director. Now, I know when he's doing that, my brother is a great director. So what he's doing is, I know he likes it, and he's kind of saying, you know, it'd be good if you try this and that like this. So at the end, everyone starts applauding. They said, and my brother goes, that's great, man. I love it. Great. And I said, Derek, what was he talking to you about? He goes, he was just saying like little, you know, tips, you know, the guy's been directing for all these years. And I was like, man. And the next one was Arnold. And you go, Frank, I love it. I love the movie. It just makes it turn around and just, you know. So Arnold loved the movie. And, you know, our birthdays are the same day, July 30th.
Oh, wow.
And I've known Arnold a long time. And I just wanted to thank everybody. I mean, this was unbelievable. I mean, You have no idea. Burt Young is in it. Talia Shire's in it. And there's a few people that aren't in it that we thought were going to be it, but they were too busy. But everyone else wasn't busy. And it just came out. So now it looks like we're going to have a release on Amazon Prime. And I was going on Amazon Prime. Sly goes, what are you talking about? Amazon Prime's got more money than Netflix. Are you kidding me?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
Bezos is the richest guy in the world. He goes, Netflix doesn't have the money they do. And the thing is, if they want it, that's even better.
That's
if you
exactly
got to force it to somebody, you know what I mean? What's the point? So I'm really looking forward to that to come out because, and I don't think it's about my politics at all because I still play places, but because I'm not a political animal. I don't sit there and degrade people because they're this or that. I degrade situations when I see people doing things that are really unfair to innocent people that don't deserve it. That's when I get opinionated, but I'm not opinionated. I mean, sometimes when I listen to CNN or MSNBC, I'm going, are we talking about the same thing? Is this the same subject? Because it's like 360. So, and I don't think it's that, but I think when people see this movie, they will realize that I'm not just some guy that picked up the guitar when Rocky came out. I'm the guy that my brother used to carry my amps in the clubs. Okay. It was that thing. I was the guy that was on stage and he was like the working actor writing and stuff. And it just happened that we both collided at the same time. And I don't care who it is. If it was Rod Stewart, nobody could have eclipsed Rocky when it came out. No. It was the phenomenal movie of all time. An unknown, unemployed actor in a movie that opened in just 2 theaters. It was only in 2 theaters, one in New York and one in California. All of a sudden, gets nominated for 10 Academy Awards. And it's the most watched movie in the history of filmdom. And it's one of the most beloved movies ever made. So here I am living in an $85 a month apartment in Trenton, New Jersey, and this comes out. So it's not like I had like a political machine behind me. I had nothing behind me. I had a car that didn't work behind me. Yeah. So how do you deal with that? You deal with it because you believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, get out of the business, because I know people think they're coming out to Cal. I said, you're not doing anything. You're going to do what everyone else does. And you're going to get probably turned down 97% of the time. And it's going to show what you have. Do you have the guts? Do you have the belief in yourself that you say, you know what? I can go on stage with Bruce Springsteen. I'll go on stage with anybody. I don't care who it is. If you don't believe that, you can't win. It's like a prize fighter. If you go into the fight believing that you can't win, you've lost the fight already, right? So, and it's like, how many times have you said to yourself, Steve, man, this song is it. This is, and then you play it for a guy that you consider pretty well known, and it just goes right over their head. They don't even get it.
1,000,000 times.
And you sit there and go, I said, what don't you get? He goes, well, that word there, like the, are you trying to tell me because the word the, is that what is bothering you? Well, I don't really quite understand the lyrics. I said, what's to understand? It's like, it's right here. It's not like deep. It's not like, Pink Floyd song or something like that. But then you get that, and it's very frustrating, man. It's like,
No, I agree 100% with you. And what changed for me is that I finally reached a point after having enough situations like that happen that I was willing to accept to myself and realize that is more a reflection on them and not a reflection on me or the art that I've created. That was the toughest thing in my career was, like you said, playing it for somebody and them, because that's a large part of being a songwriter as a profession anyway, it is completely reliant on somebody else liking what you've done and cutting it and putting it out and it making money. And that was the point I had to get to, was it's like, look, you can tell me you don't like it, but in all honesty, it tells me more about you than it does about what I've done. And that could be right or wrong, but that's the philosophy I've adapted.
I refuse to hear that's a bad song. It might be a song that you don't like, but it's not a bad song.
Yes.
You know, sometimes it's unbelievable. I mean, I used to work. I mean, I'm the only guy ever produced. Harry Nilsson, to me, was one of the great songwriters ever. I said, and I played it for Harry Nilsson, who the Beatles thought was one of the greatest writers ever. He goes, Frankie, man, it's a really great song. So I know I had the seal of approval. So now I'm playing it to some schlepper at A&M Records. And he goes, here's a funny story. I wrote with Lamont Dozier, who was part of one of the biggest Motown writing, the Holland Dozier in Holland. Probably wrote 100 records. Okay. He tells me, and also folks out there, remember, Elvis Presley and the Beatles were turned down by every record company known to man. Elvis and the Beatles, think about it, turned down by everybody. Oh, no, that's never going to go. Anyway. So he's telling me a story about Marvin Gaye. Now, Marvin Gaye probably had 30, 40 hit pop records, right? And then he just disappeared. So all of a sudden he shows up into the office of Berry Gordy, and Smokey is there, and Lamont's there. And for some reason, Marvin, where you been? And he looks totally different. He's got the red knit hat. He's got a beard. He's wearing like jeans. You know, kind of looks like a hermit type guy. And he goes, where you been, man? You know, you took off for like a year, man. We need to hit records. Berry Gordy's going like this. So he goes, well, I want you to hear something I've been working on. Okay. It's unbelievable. So he puts on a dub. For those people out there, that's what they had in those days, like a dub. It's a dubber. And he plays the whole album of What's Going On in the entirety. And at the end, Berry Gordy's got this dumbfounded look on his face, but he didn't get it at all. He goes like, where's the hits? Where's it? It's Smokey and Lamont are sitting there going, oh my God, this might be one of the greatest things I've ever heard in my life. And at the end result, it is one of the great albums ever. What's Going On album. I mean, totally. It changed R&B music forever. I mean, then, you know, Stevie came out with Interventions, and then Marvin went on with so many great songs. But just goes to show some people are very resistant to change. They just, where's the hits? But no, this is not the, this is the hit. This is the revolutionary record. Do you realize what EMI must have thought when they heard Sgt. Pepper's for the first time?
Oh, you know, what they were going ape shit.
Well, John Lennon, all of a sudden there are these clean cut little bushy hair guys. Now Lennon's got wire rimmed glasses, a Fu Manchu. They all got mustaches and beards. They're wearing like parade uniforms. They're probably going, oh God, these guys have lost their marbles. Again, went on to be probably one of the greatest records of all time.
Well, and I think a lot of people getting into this business do not understand that A&R, record label executives and staff, they go to school for a couple of years before they get these jobs. And the only class they take in this school is how to say no, because no is the protection, and that no, there is so much job security in no. And when they say no, they're not saying no, they don't like you. No, they don't like your song. They're saying no, there's no way I'm taking a chance. It might be good. It might be great, but I'm not going to be the one. And
that's amazing. Yeah. I'm not going to take the shot. I'm not going to take the hit.
But unfortunately, to make it in the music business, you got to have somebody first.
Yeah, but deep down, they probably say, man, this is really great. Think about Garth Brooks.
Totally.
Here you go. Short guy, overweight kind of guy, just kind of a nice person, I've always heard, but an ordinary looking guy, not like a Brad Pitt looking guy. And he used to work at Manuel's Western store.
Right.
Okay? Nashville. All of a sudden, this guy changed the whole face of country music. This guy, not this great looking guy, looked like Charlie Sexton or Brad Pitt. This guy with the cowboy hat, and he turned country music into a Kiss concert.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's the truth.
He really did change country music.
Well, and before was turned down by every single record label more than one time.
And probably has sold well over 150 million records. Well over.
Oh, yeah.
He might be one of the largest selling. But again, why? He's a nice guy. He's personable. People can relate to him. And he writes good songs, and he's a good performer. You know, he's just not sitting there like, you know, plucking on, oh, there, I've seen a lot of war. You know, I mean, stuff like that. He's doing like really good stuff. So there are the people that have the insight, and there are some people that don't. It's
and I think it comes back to as well. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody. I believe wholeheartedly when you look over the time, as far as back as you want to go, the people that we idolize, that we look up to, that we recognize as quote unquote superstars, they were entertainers. They were not artists. They were entertainers. And there, to me, is a huge difference between an entertainer and an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Elvis was an artist. Frank Sinatra was an artist because they didn't really create their music. They created their persona, but they didn't really create. Where you have, on the other end, Bobby Darin was a great performer, but he also wrote everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? As the Beatles, as Paul Simon, as James Taylor, all that stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. But, Sinatra in their own way were artists, but they weren't because they were singing other people's music, but in essence turned it into theirs.
They made it their own. That's exactly right.
No one can sing Jailhouse Rock but Elvis. You're crazy. Stuff like that. And it's like Hall & Oates. I mean, they're great writers, great singers. I've known them since 1968. John and I were in a band together in 1970. Wow. Yeah. And Daryl was going to come down and audition for us in 1968 or 69. But we didn't make any money. We were playing all our own music. We thought we were like the Buffalo Springfield, and he had to make money because he was getting married. So we were not the group for him. You know what I mean? But I did his show live at Daryl's house. And I mean, think about it. They're the largest selling duo in the history of music. And it's been almost 30 years until they got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And when they got in, it wasn't like they were that excited about, because I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think it started good intentions, but I'm looking at stuff. Joan Baez and Nina Simone are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's not rock and roll. But Paul Revere and the Raiders aren't in.
Right.
Grand Funk Railroad is not in. Three Dog Night is not in. A lot of groups aren't in. 38 Special. I mean, but I'm talking about groups like Three Dog Night, the Grassroots. I'm talking about groups that had like 15 hit records.
Yeah. They're not in. They're
not in. I mean, Paul Revere and the Raiders? Are you crazy?
Well, I'll tell you, I had
hit records.
A little foray into that as it affected me personally, because I always just assumed things with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame were on the up and up. That was before my whole Grammys situation and all of that. And I realized, this shit's bought and paid for. But before all of that, I realized one of my family's closest friends, he might as well be my uncle. Has always been was a part of our family. I can't even remember how long, with Scotty Moore. And it blew me away that it was just like 9 years ago when we finally got Scotty into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And when I was like, my uncle was his best friend, and I'm like, wait a minute, you mean Scotty's not in? He's not in the Rock and Roll, and he's like, no, we're mounting this campaign to try to get, and I'm like, how can
you're talking rock and roll? That is the antithesis of the rock and roll guitar player.
Well, I mean, it's like, all the Chuck Berry and all this about, I'm the godfather of rock. And I'm like, to me, the godfather of rock and roll when it comes to guitar players is the guy that actually wrote and played the licks. And Scotty,
and James
there would be no, I would argue, knowing there might not even be an Elvis if there weren't a Scotty Moore. So
might not have that combination of Bill Black, him. It might not have. I mean, it kind of works together. Like you get Creedence Clearwater. Individually, they're not great musicians. I mean, John Fogerty's a genius in what he does. But together, it's unbeatable.
That's right.
I mean, the combination of Bill Black and Scotty and Elvis and, Sam Phillips, he nailed it. But look at all those licks. I mean, look at Bill Haley and the Comet, those guitar licks. There would be no rock and roll if it wasn't for those guys. I mean, and it's amazing. And James Burton probably him and Scotty were real tight. He'd probably be the first one to tell you that he should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I mean, Harry Nilsson's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Guess what? Ringo, who's Harry's best friend, has petitioned for that. Ringo Starr, Beatles. and he's still not in. Listen, I mean, I kind of dig it. I kind of like what Paul McCartney did when he was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something like that. And Little Richard was sitting there with Doc Pomus or something like that. And he goes, raw. And he was nominated for something, Little Richard. I think it was a Grammy or something.
Yeah.
But they didn't even announce him. They didn't even bring him on stage. Paul goes, raw. Paul goes, nah. This is Little Richard. This is rock and roll, mate. And Paul was, because he loved singing Long Tall Sally, all his Little Richard. He was visibly pissed. You could tell he was not happy with that because that was a total diss to Little Richard. I mean, come on. Think about it. If you didn't have Elvis, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, there would be no rock and roll.
No.
Right?
There wouldn't.
And Jerry Lee Lewis is the greatest. To me, he is the craziest guy. I mean, look at his life. It's unbelievable.
I'll second that.
We're talking Me Too movement. He married his 13-year-old cousin.
Right.
Can you imagine that now? Hey, man, she's really family. I got to tell you that. But the guy sustained like a 60-year career. And you can't kill him. I mean, everything is tried. But I mean, you think about, I remember seeing these guys the first time they were on TV. I was like 6 years old. And I was sitting there like this, like comatose going, what am I watching? Everybody keeps it rocking. And more you go, his hair would come down over his shoulders. His blonde blocks fall right in the middle of his face. You couldn't see him wearing these flashy suits. And he was but he was great. You know what I mean? He would be like grunge rock considered like for that time. He was like way over the top. I mean, he was before you had like On a Day like Pat Boone and Jerry Vale. And then all of a sudden, overnight, you have Elvis and Little Richard. And, all these guys come out that are like long hair, sideburns. It's almost like I was there, man. I saw it. I went to Love Me Tender at the movie theater when it came out. It was just like when I went to see the Beatles Hard Day Night. It was just constant screaming.
Right.
It's just girls like fainting and like, and just passing out. So it's amazing. I mean, how it just changed. And then when the Beatles came out, remember, Elvis was in the army. So it was, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but it was Fabian, Pat Boone,
right?
Bobby Rydell, was that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, these guys come out with like long hair from England, and I remember seeing it on TV. I go, I'm done. That's it. I'm hooked. The Elvis thing, I was hooked. Elvis, I was 6 years old. I go, this is what I'm doing. And then you go in, and then all of a sudden now you're 13, and you get the double whammy. The Beatles came out, and my mother turned to my father. She goes, we've lost them. You know that. I was like, the next day I had Beatle boots. I was wearing the pea coats. It was like trying to speak with a British accent. Hello, love. I was like 13 years old. But I knew this was the road, man. I mean, wow. I was hooked, put a nail in that coffin, and that was it. Honest to God, from Elvis, I never wanted to do anything else but be a rock and roll singer, whether in a band or by myself. I didn't, respectively, I didn't want to be a fireman. I didn't want to be a cop. I didn't want to do this. This is what I wanted to do. And it's been good and it's been really bad. I mean, it's a journey for sure. It's not like, it's not like going on American Idol and, the next day you're making, $50,000 a show. I used to work 6 nights a week, 160 minutes, 4 sets at 40 minutes each, 20 off a night. That's 160 minutes of music a night times 5 or 6. And I would make, after the band, everything, I would make maybe $110
wow
a week. Well, I figure if we made, and I know it's unbelievable. Some kids have said, this is 1972. So the band is making $125 a night. split that 4 ways. Okay, that's a little more than $25 each. And my manager is getting 20%. So he's getting
He made more than all of you.
Made more than all of them. Okay. So, I mean, can you imagine if you said, hey, listen, man, you're going to be working 106, you're playing 500 minutes of music a week in a dive bar with blue smoke because everyone smoked. You're going to have to drive in inclement weather. And you might make $120.
No, they're not up for that these days.
Bro. No, that's a bar tab for kids.
No, that's it. Well, they all have, to me, what I call the call me when I'm famous syndrome. It's like, they're not, most of them are not willing to put in the persistence, consistency, and sacrifice that it takes to really be successful. That's why they're all out there rioting and all that shit, because that's more valuable for their time.
Like Bruce Springsteen, when I read his book, and we're politically totally opposite, but I know Bruce and I think he's great. He's a hardworking guy, but our careers are exactly almost the same. When I'm reading his book, same places. I was living in New Jersey, same places, just the same thing, sitting in our bedroom, little crappy bedroom with our guitar, like, with a TV screen this big, you know what I mean? And having that dream and having the insecurities that go with it because we're different. Because we're not football players. We're not big, handsome guys. We're not getting the girls or anything like that. So I read the book. I totally related to it. And then I was talking to Bruce once, and I said, I got to tell you something. Do you know we shared a bill together once? He goes, I said, not in a stadium. Okay, trust me on this one. It is 1972. And this is, may God strike me dead. It's a true story. I'm playing in a place called Kenny's Castaways, which was 85th Street and 3rd Avenue in New York City. Now, I'm working in Bloomingdale's for some reason as a shirt salesman. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I'm tucking my hair into my thing, because it's that time, they want clean cut. But no, I wanted to be a rock guy, but I also didn't want to star, but I hated the job. Anyway, so I would moonlight at night. I played folk clubs in Greenwich Village and all. So I'm playing this thing, and I just thought I was a solo act. I was just going to go on. It's like a folk club called Kenny's Castaways. Irish guy owned it, right? May God is my witness. I walk in, and those they're not chalkboards, but they're white, and they use like pencil, and they today's menu. I swear to God, it says tonight appearing Bruce Springsteen, not Steen, Stein, and Valentine. That was my name. I used the name Valentine. I didn't use my real name. So I come walking into the club, right? And there's this guy on stage with this hat, kind of pulled down over his face. And he's, I'm going, who the hell is this guy, right? So I just walk into the dressing room waiting until he comes off. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing this music. So I thought he was finished his show, and they were just playing music, until the next act came on. I go, man, this is smoking. It sounds like Van Morrison. I open my dressing room door. It's him and the E Street Band. They just weren't on the stage when I walked in. And he's doing Rosalita, jump a little, blinded by the light. I'm there, holy Christ almighty. I said, whoa, man. And I had to go on, play. I had to follow that.
Oh, no. God.
The acoustic. And I'm there, and I was talking to him in the dressing room after that. And he was a real nice guy. He was like a scraggly, little skinny guy. He didn't look like born in the USA guy, like bodybuilding. He was like a little skinny guy like I was. But is that amazing? Bruce Springsteen. Sounds like a Jewish, accountant.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he would have made it with a name like Bruce Springsteen. It just doesn't ring right.
Bruce Springsteen is kind of, it's like, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not like marquee, name,
Yeah.
But that's what it was. So my life is, and we talk about this stuff in the documentary. And, but that's what makes life worth living. You've got to have the curves in the road. You have to have it, or you don't appreciate the good things that happen. If everything good happened to you, when something bad happens, you fall apart. And mostly in my career, everything bad happened other than me having a good time. But as far as moving ahead with my career, everything was it was one step forward, 20 steps back, one step forward, 20. So, it's that ebb and flow. and you got to be able to roll with it. It's like a boxer. You got to be able to roll with the punches when they come in. I don't know if a lot of young acts can do it.
I don't think they can either. When you look back over everything that you have accomplished, what is most important, or what do you value the most?
I think I value the most people I love, health. I mean, health is, I've been losing friends left and right. All my best friends have died. The guys that you could call at 2 a.m, no matter where you were, or if you were doing the long drive across country, you'd be on the phone for 4 hours just talking about stuff that no one else knows about. Mm-hmm. So I lost my drummer last week. I talked to him 10 minutes before he died. It was my first drummer who's in the documentary. Things like that. I cherish health. I cherish friendship. My family. What's left of my family and stuff like that. And of course, we all get a free pass for being an asshole at times. I mean, there's no one that is perfect, and they say things maybe they shouldn't have said, or this like that, but no one's perfect. There's not a perfect machine. Now they're going after John Wayne of something he said 50 years ago. And then all of a sudden, every actor that worked with John Wayne that was either black or Mexican said he was the greatest guy in the world to work with. He was giving, you do anything for you. And now they want to take his statue down because he said something that didn't jive. But, it just didn't ring right. I said, but there's a lot of people that say I've said a lot of things that are 8,000 times worse than him, and they're not taking his statue down. So that is the stuff that is kind of bothering me now, the dismantling of our history. We cannot change history. We can learn from history. Can't get tomorrow back, but we have a future. Mm-hmm. There is so without history, there is no future because we don't know what the future is. So if we sit there, we go, okay, well, maybe that was a bad idea then. So let's work on this. But dismantling it doesn't get rid of it. It just takes a statue away. It doesn't change history. And that's the stuff that really bothers me, because I think it's something that's kind of discounting the future, the kids. There are some people like me. I love the Civil War. I'm a Civil War buff. I love it. I think it's interesting. It was one of the most turbulent times in American history, as were all wars. But it's because you like the Civil War and you like history, you're not a racist. So if you're interested in World War II, German munitions and stuff, doesn't mean you're a Nazi. It's just you're a historian. That's what a historian does. That's why, it's not unfortunately, that's why some of those, those Hitler death camps like Auschwitz and Dachau, they're still there. Not because you're going there like, Magic Mountain. It's a thing in history. Don't forget your history. And hopefully you can learn from your history, and hopefully we do better as we move forward. But this stuff is like this canceling out stuff. Someone says the wrong thing, they lose their career job. It's just, that's what really bothers me. That's where, because I believe everyone deserves a fair chance. I've always been for like with President, the prison reform thing. I've always been like that. I mean, unless a guy's like a psychopathic killer, I've always think everyone deserves a second chance. I mean, if they did their time, and they're not like a sociopath, why shouldn't they be able to get a job? Why shouldn't that happen? I think President Trump did a good thing on that. So, but that all gets skewered in the big picture. But Steve, in closing, what I wish, I've had I've had ups and downs, and I always thought I'd be more famous than I am, whatever. But I've had a pretty blessed life. I mean, if I really look at everything, I've been able to do what I love to do my whole life. Okay. I've had to eat crap a lot. I've had to, maybe do jobs I didn't want to do, but I had to survive. But I've had, the journey of my brother's journey. I don't know if I could have functioned being that famous, knowing that you can't go anywhere in the world where they don't know you. He was walking in a rice paddy in Indonesia, and all of a sudden people in the rice paddy don't, okay. So it's like, I don't know if I would want that, if I could handle that. But the thing is, I still have my mother, I have some friends left, and I still have my voice. I can still play guitar, and I got to be thankful for that. I mean, not everything is always going to go 100% your way. And, hopefully these young artists that are spending, $2 million on watches and stuff like that, let's see where they'll be in 50 years. I mean, I can say I'm still here after 55 years of professional music. Let's see where Taylor Swift will be at 70 or this guy at 65. Well, you've gone through 4 divorces. Well, have you gone through, hopefully not sickness or something? So I've kind of, I guess, run the gauntlet. I hear this a lot of times. People go, well, you're just doing this. Okay, first of all, I have been 24. You have not been 70. Okay. You got to put in your time. It's like when they talk to my mother, she goes, I'm almost 100. You're 24. Let's add about 80 years and see where you are. So, and that's the thing. But I think, Steve, it's a sometimes charmed, beautiful life. And there's nothing better, as you know, for us than writing a great song that's sometimes recorded by us or other people and greatly appreciated, something that lives on in time. I mean, the songs I've written for these movies, like Take You Back and Rocky or Peace and Life from Rambo or Staying Alive, these songs, they will outlive me for eternity.
Yeah, they will. They'll live forever.
They live forever. And that's what's so beautiful about what we do. When you get that right song, that right performance, the right artist, my friend wrote one of the most recorded songs in history. Richard Dreesy wrote Never My Love. It's like the second most recorded song in the history of music. One song.
Wow. It's
been a hit record for so many people, Never My Love. And I said, man, that is what we call the gift that keeps on giving.
That's
my friend Eric Carmen wrote those songs all by myself, never going, Hungry Eyes. Those are the songs that it's almost like, I'm not a really materialistic person in that sense, but it is the gift that keeps on giving. It's like teaching while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So if you wrote a song like Feelings Are Yesterday, you never have to work again. If you own your publishing, you would never have to do another job. So when they go, how about Alanis Morissette? I said, how about it? She sold 35 million records as she wrote everything and kept the publishing. 35 million records. She's probably hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
No, it is.
Because
I've written and good friends with Jonathan Cain, and people ask all the time. Yeah. It's like, man, they got to hope Journey keeps touring. And I'm like, no,
they don't need
no.
They don't need Jonathan Cain. They don't need the work. I mean, Paul Simon. Think about if you wrote Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Oh yeah, I mean,
recorded about 400 times. So I mean, but that's not even talking. Paul Simon's written like 20 great songs like that. I mean,
yeah.
Mrs. Robinson, Are You Going to? So they don't understand the enormity. Neil Diamond, how many hits do you think he wrote? And he owns his publishing.
Yeah.
Well, put it this way. Years ago, his divorce was settlement. He paid his wife $180 million. So does that put it in perspective? If you're splitting it half, and then after that, he went on to have tremendous.
Yeah, even more success. Yeah.
I mean, Kentucky Woman, Sweet Caroline, go on. I Said. Goes on and on. He wrote probably Cherry, probably 50 hit records.
Yeah.
I'm a believer for the Monkees. I mean, so his publishing it's insane. And I think that's what people don't understand. They go, well, they hurt. And I go, no, James Taylor's not hurting. People have done Fire and Rain for Sweet Baby James, stuff like that. So Journey. I mean, like Steve Perry and those guys wrote those songs. Forget it. They've sold 150 million records. Right?
They're good. They're good for the rest of their life.
He wrote some of that stuff, man. Believe me, I wish I would have kept all my publishing, but unfortunately, in the movie business in those days, they would try to take all your publishing. You would get your writers, but they take all your publishing, which is totally, really unfair. But but we don't do that anymore. So when Frankie writes stuff, that Frankie keeps the publishing now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I walked away from my publishing deal 2 years ago, and I never looked back, and I won't ever look back ever again.
Are you PMG or you ASCAP?
I'm CSAC now.
CSAC.
Yeah, I was BMI for 20 years, and I didn't like what they had turned into over the last 10 years or so. And I mean, I'd have songs on the chart in the top 10. I couldn't get my fucking rep to call me back. And I'm like, I can't do that. So CSAC had been after me for a while, and I finally went over to CSAC and love it.
I heard you're really good. I've always had a fairly good. I've been with ASCAP my whole life, and they've always they're pretty on it. I mean, they've been around a long time, ASCAP, and so and that's it. But it's funny. People ask me all the time. They go, Frank, do you have an agent? Look at my little J200 here.
Nice.
There we go. Hey, man. So people, that goes on the Christmas tree. I don't know what the hell it's doing here, but and it's what was I just saying?
The publishing.
Publishing.
Yeah.
And the publishing, people don't realize, is the lifeblood of a writer. That's what we live on. And I was always resentful that the people that took my publishing that would have made me a multimillionaire, that money sent their kids to Ivy League colleges. That's my money, not your money. It's my money.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a deal. Okay, well, we'll take 30%. You take 70%. We want 100%. Who takes 100%? But now there's a lot of legal teams and legal things that are getting their publishing back, which I think is totally fair.
I agree.
Like, a lot of, it's called something. What's it called?
I've heard it called reacquisition, reposition. I've heard before. There's a couple things that I've heard out there that they're now going back and getting it because of unfair and predatory practices.
Guys like Little Richard, he got ripped off. What do you think he'd be worth? All the hits he had. I mean, Chuck Berry was smart. Chuck Berry, if you ever saw the movie Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, they did it one time. He goes, man, who's that guy's name on my record? He didn't write. I don't even know who that guy is. And for that point, he goes, Chuck Berry, man, give me that money.
That's right.
And Chuck did everything. And you know what? God bless him. And I'm always for it. And in closing, I always hope the artists that I've liked, I'm sure you're the same way, we always hope they end up okay.
Yeah.
Hate to see someone that was an idol that was great that are sitting there groveling, doing wedding band stuff. I don't like seeing that. I like to say, you know what? We're in the twilight of our years and we're okay. And all the hard work paid off. But the most important thing is, is your health. And I was sensing, I don't even have representation. You know how hard it is to get someone to go to work and get you gigs?
Hard.
They go, well, how do you play casinos? I said, I do it. Because they don't want to do it. If they get like, oh, what's Rocky's brother? All of a sudden they fold their tent. You don't hear from them anymore. I said, well, you know what? I said, I'll tell you what. Just give me the chance. Let me play there, and then you'll see. And then we always get the gigs. But a lot of acts are going through that. But the most important thing, really, at the end of the day, is your health. Because you ain't got your health, you can't perform.
That's the truth. That is true.
And we got to leave it all in God's hands, man. But I'm so happy that we connected online to do your show. And if people are interested, what I'm doing, I'm on Instagram, frank.stallone. My website is frankstallone.com. And also I got a guitar company, as you know.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about Frank Stallone guitars.
Well, I decided to go in partnership with my friend Gary Panapinto. And let's say, you know what, these guitars now are getting really expensive. People are having hard times, and they can't afford to buy a Paul Reed Smith, like $4,000. They don't have that kind of money. So let's find out some guitar makers, find something that's a great guitar for the minimum price. So we came up with the first guitar was the Tiger. We sold them for like $650, including free shipping, gig bag, setup, and everything. And we've had nothing but great response.
Awesome.
And so we went to Echo Guitars, who are made in Italy. I said, well, okay, I'm Italian. Here we go. How many times do you find an electric guitar made in Italy? Never. You don't. So I said, I will get involved in this if the guitar is made in Italy. If it's made in Kazakhstan, I'm not interested, because how do I sell it? It's an Italian guitar,
Right.
So coming out, that's called the Stallion, and that's going to be a really cool electric guitar. And then we have and Echo has also been around since 1959. They've been making guitars forever. So we have a few things coming up. Now we have a guitar called the Tigress. We have the Tiger, now the Tigress, and we're starting to sell them. And if people are interested, they can go to frankstalloneguitars.com. And Gary, who kind of runs the day-to-day operations, he's the CEO. He is a very on it guy. He'll make sure everything runs perfect. You get it, and you get the best deal. We're doing artist deals and stuff like that. And they're really beautiful guitars. They really are. So I'm doing that. And, so that's what I'm doing. Basically, my life is selling guitars, playing music, and sitting how many likes I get on Instagram. No, I'm not kidding. The way my career goes, all of a sudden I'll say one thing, I'll lose 3,000 people.
Yeah.
I go, I guess they weren't my fans anyway.
Exactly. That's the way to look at it, for sure. That is. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. And there is one thing, next time I'm in LA, I'm going to call you. Yeah. And okay. I want us to go eat Italian food somewhere and sit and talk about, because I know you have a fascination, a love, and collection of mafia, as do I. And I would love for us to sit and eat Italian food and compare our notes.
Well, I will take you to a place called Rayo's, where Rayo's is probably one of the oldest restaurants in the United States. The original is in New York. It opened like 1890s. And Joey Rayo was a hitman around before Al Capone. He was a stone cold killer. Look him up, Joey Rayo. And that restaurant has been in New York all these years. You can't get in. I don't care if you don't have, like, some people book a year ahead. But out here, my friend Andy Roast Beef runs it out here, and it's the best Italian food. It's all the old stuff you love, and you can't get more Italian than that. And it's great, and the food is great, and we can sit there and just talk about the old mustache Pete's.
Let's do that. Matter of fact, I'll be out there in a couple of weeks, and I would love to do that. I think it'd be a blast.
We'll go, man.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Frank and I are becoming fast friends. I like Frank a lot. I love his story. I don't know if you were I hope you were paying very close attention, because the theme of what I got when I was doing the interview and on the call with Frank is what I've been talking and preaching to you guys about for a very long time. And that is persistence, consistency, and a willingness to sacrifice. And if you go back and you listen or watch this interview again, you will see throughout his career, Frank has been consistent, and has had a willingness to sacrifice over and over and over again. And look, things could have been easy for Frank, right? I mean, he's got a brother who is probably one of the top 5 most famous people on the face of the planet that has ever lived, can't go anywhere without being recognized, and is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But instead of just doing that, Frank knew that he was his own man, and he went to work, and he consistently did what he had to do to make a living for himself, to even when it comes to acting and songwriting and being an entrepreneur with Frank Stallone Guitars. He's out there doing it as if he didn't have Sylvester Stallone as a brother. And I think that is such a testament that I hope you guys paid attention. I hope that's what you got out of this episode. And like we talked before, go check it out. The guitars are freaking awesome. I love them. I've actually ordered one for myself. Go to frankstalloneguitars.com and check those out. Check out Frank's music. I'm telling you, I've been listening to it for like 3 days. And I absolutely love it. The Big Band album, I love it. Go check it out. Go follow Frank on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, it's frank.stallone. Go give him a follow. And again, guys, I appreciate you being here for sure. Don't forget, though, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and leave a written review if you would. Plus, we have just started the new Inner Circle Facebook group, the private Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/The Steve Freeman and join the group. I will approve it. So you just ask to join and I will approve it. Also, don't forget, brand new merch in the Steve Freeman Podcast store. Those of you listening can't see this awesome travel coffee mug. It's got the Steve Freeman Podcast logo on one, the No Bullshit logo on the other, the real raw truth. Let's see if I can get that to focus in on that. Oh, isn't it so nice? It's so nice. Go check it out. You can find that at thestevefreeman.com as well. Guys, thank you for being here. Keep being creative. keep pressing the boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with being independent. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for the Steve Freeman Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow Steve on social media at the Steve Freeman.